Welcome to our Set It and Forget It. Take your invoice entry in Viewpoint Vista down to 0 clicks. This is a webinar series we're going to be starting up where we're targeting specific accounting integrations that we have here at Paperless Environments with our P-Vault system. I can kind of see some of the people on the call today are current customers of ours, and then we have some new potential customers too that have joined in. So this webinar is going to be a broad overview of some different ways to actually automate your invoice entry, kind of set it and forget it. Everybody has the same issues on this call that I promise you everybody else in the world has too when it comes to construction and moving construction around with document management workflows. So today, real quickly, I'm going to go through a quick PowerPoint just to kind of present things to you guys. For a quick introduction, my name is Jacob Dawson. I'm a senior sales executive here at Paperless Environments. I've been doing this for 5 years now, going on 6. I kind of started out actually working in the construction industry and then was able to take my talents of what I knew in the construction industry and go and help other people in the whole country do what we do best here at Paperless Environments. So real quickly, our overview is going to be my introduction I just gave, and then we're going to talk about how to get to 0 clicks and then have some questions and open discussion afterwards if we have time. Most of the time I get talking and we don't have time for those after, but we'll like I said, we'll address those things at the end of the meeting, whether I have time or not, or I'll individually message you guys personally. But quick backstory on Paperless Environments and our P-Vault product. We were founded in 2005 by our president and CEO, Seth. He was the CFO of a large industrial contracting company here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They were Viewpoint Vista customers and clients using the system, and he had a need for getting documents out for approval, having accounts payable be a little more automated and a little more insight into what's going on. So he went out looking for another solution like the one we have today that we've created with P-Vault. He could not find anything that was exactly the right fit for the construction industry and for what he did with Viewpoint Vista. So he was able to go out and actually produce a development team of his own, of peers that were actually working for his company, worked at the time, and they were able to go create what we now know today as P-Vault. We have main offices in Portland, Oregon, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Our main headquarters is Baton Rouge, where I'm located at. We have over 1,800 customers and 1,800 clients and over 50,000 users in our systems daily. This ranges from the US to Canada, even down to Australia and New Zealand as well. We've been the Viewpoint development partners for 19 years and counting. Everybody knows with Viewpoint, they've been around for a great long time. It's our first integration. It's our true blood integration, we like to call it. That's where we have the most bang for our buck when it comes to what we can provide for customers as far as an integration goes. Here's a quick little map of Viewpoint customers from across the country. You'll notice they're pretty spread out, very heavily on the East Coast, but we do spread throughout the whole country as far as this goes, and there's some down south of this picture as well too. But now we're going to get into set it and forget it. Take your invoice entry process down to 0 clicks. And to do this today, we're going to go over our different capture methods. We have 5 different capture methods we're going to talk about today, from opening a file to an automatic email import to help get documents in the system quicker, folder watches for those pesky paper-based documents you're scanning in, and then our drag and drop features as well. And then also we have a mobile e-capture app for cell phones too to get documents into the system. Once we go through that, we're going to talk about our advanced automation, our invoice entry with OCR, and how that can take your invoice processing from multiple clicks and lookups into different tables and fields within Vista down into nothing, letting the system work for you and letting you worry about all the real important things going on in your offices daily to daily. We'll then talk about some routing rules and customization with that. We'll go over invoice review for what your review team is going to see from the field, such as project managers or supervisors, all the way up to the CFO level and the CEO level as well. We'll dive into our invoice managing tool for most of the people that are on here today who deal with actually managing the accounts payable team and invoices traveling around. And then we'll take a quick little look at our newest feature of our payments manager with a new integration that we have with another payments company on there. After that, we're going to actually really get into our advanced bridge functionality and how our system works with your Viewpoint Vista system. This takes it from having multiple systems where things are saved in two different places to having a seamless integration of documents being between both places at once, where if you save something in our system, it's going to show up in the Vista paperclip, or if you save something in Vista, it's going to show up into our system. And then also having things save in multiple places by saving at one time in our system. You no longer have to go save to every single module within Vista. If you want that invoice, that job photo, or that contract or lease agreement saved on there, you just save it in our system once, and we have an advanced bridge plugin that is going to go actually place that document onto the necessary paper clips or attachment points within your Vista system. This also gives you a true binary connection, bidirectional connection on here. And from having that true bidirectional connection, that means you're going to be able to go in and actually add in your vendors from the PVault system, and they're going to show up into Vista. You're going to be able to manipulate a PO line item with the units and amount received, and that's going to translate over as well too. So you're able to go through these different steps and not have to utilize two different systems at the same time. You're able to kind of stay in one system and function around with it and do what you need to do. After that, we have our other products and things. This is just kind of for housekeeping to remind everybody who's already a current customer. We have our electronic forms, which are automatic or customized forms that you guys create. So if your field guys are filling out JSAs, job safety analysis sheets, so filling out toolbox talks or anything like that, you're able to go fill those out from our tablet application and actually submit that in and have a document that is turned into the system. That document, now being a document, can be saved and added to the paperclip attachment within your Vista environment as well. We then also have our eCapture tool for capturing documents from the field. This is a cell phone app or a web-based a web-based URL that you can go to our website. So after that, we then have our ePortal where that eCapture also lives inside of for the web-based side of things. And then we also have a Greenlight compliance management tool for automating lien waiver tracking, so certificates of insurance, certified payroll, and different things like that too. We're not going to get into the Greenlight compliance side of things today, but we like to always highlight it because a lot of our Vista customers have started to move on to that product as well too. All right, guys, so now we're going to get into our demo of what's possible with Viewpoint Vista. So from here, I'm going to share my computer screen. Good thing about our system here is you'll see we have our home screen. We're going to do some quick little navigation through the system for those of you who aren't customers yet. And then we'll dive into actually capturing a document and different capture methods. Then we're going to get into entering an invoice. We have the manual way and then the OCR way, which is going to actually move the process through automatically for us. For quick reference here, the top of our system, we have our navigation tabs to the top left. This is going to give you your home tab for getting to our home screen here, which has a couple widgets and pie charts for you to navigate through the system with as well. We have our capture tab to give you our different capture methods. Some of these capture methods are going to be manual, like opening a file or creating a new batch. But then we also have automatic capture methods, such as our importer tools, and we're going to get into those importer tools big time when we start talking about OCR and how those tools can actually help drive your AP processing times down and also take away the headache of having to do those things manually. After that, after the capturing of the documents, you then have your retrieval tab. Retrieval tab is going to give you quick little things like your search tool. This is going to allow you to go search for documents that have previously been saved within your system, in your PVault system, or saved within Vista too. We then have our queues where documents live within our system before they're actually captured. So a queue is just a to-do pile on your desk, a holding place for documents before anything's happened to them. If somebody was to walk into a conference room and put documents on a conference room table and a certain job project team was able to walk in and go, hey, I need all the documents to look at that have been turned in for job 100, you could have something like a job 100 queue that's public and multiple people have access to. But our queues also are able to be locked down and privatized by an individual user. So I could have my own personal queue, just like I have my own personal inbox. If somebody on this call had to send me a document for me to personally see and save in the system or manipulate, they could send it to Jacob's queue on their own. From here, we also then get into our reporting, and we have a very extensive list of reports specific to Viewpoint as well. So you're able to go through and actually run reports from our system. But the great part about our advanced bridge configuration and plugin is you're going to have those Vista reports that you're used to running every single day with attachments. Those reports are still going to work because we take over that paperclip attachment point. So now you're able to have those reports in Vista also have attachments to them for invoices, job photos, or anything else you might want to see on those reports too. After that, we have our distribution tab for getting documents out of the system. This distribution tab is going to be very useful when it comes to actually sending out documents for an emailing to someone, printing them, pushing them to someone else's queue, or even our CD Plus tool to actually send documents out for an audit. This is going to bundle all your documents up into a quick zip file for you. And then when you present that to your auditing team, when they open that file, they're actually going to have a mini P-Vault search screen to search through those documents. They no longer have to click through every single file to figure out what exactly that document is or look at the name of the file. They're able to go through and search based on certain values that we save our documents by in the system here. And I'm going to show you those in a second. After that, we then have our AP Flow tab where we're going to spend most of our time today. This AP Flow tab gives you your invoice entry screen, your AP approval screen for your project managers and everybody approving these invoices, an invoice manager tool for your managing team to go out and see every invoice out there en route. It doesn't have to be just sent to you, or it doesn't have to have your name as the approver on the document itself or the invoice. You're able to go into the invoice manager tool and actually see everything else, everything that's out there en route, and you can revoke it and do other things I'm going to show you today. And then that has in there as well our payment manager side of things as well too. So we're going to talk about that and how we can automate actually having invoices paid for you with our connection to one of our partners. After that, we have our AP Flow, which has its own routing rules in it, and then we have our doc route. Doc route is for regular documents within the system, and you're going to see this come into play when we have our invoices we're entering, and certain invoices might not have purchase orders actually entered in Vista yet, or they might not have subcontracts or lease agreements or anything else like that. So we're able to go through with doc route and route these over to the correct people before we route those around for approval to our invoice approval teams on there. Then you have your green light compliance tab after that tab. But after that, there's just some housekeeping tabs like images, annotations, administration, utilities, and links and stuff like that we can get into at another time. But real quickly, before we get into actually bringing a document in, we got to do some housekeeping of how we save documents in our system. So the first way we save documents in our system is going to be our document types. So you have to have a document type. What is the document you're saving? The P-Vault system comes with a huge list of pre-configured document types. That's 19 years worth of data that our customers have used over time. So these are things that our customers have said, hey, these are document types we use every single day. That way, when you go install and implement the P-Vault system, you don't have to start from scratch or fresh. After you have your document type selected for what you're saving in the system, like an AP invoice, we then save by index criteria, like you guys are used to today in Vista. So index criteria is just pertinent information on that document you would know to go save a document by, search a document by, or our system is going to use to associate documents together, such as job numbers or anything else like that. So if I go do a search of AP invoices that's saved in my system for my Viewpoint Vista system or Vault, I'm going to see I have 216 invoices. But say I actually want to narrow that down into a specific job number or job name. Well, with our connection into Vista, I can do an F4 lookup, and this F4 lookup is going to pull up my job list straight from the Vista system I'm bridged to. So I could say, all right, let's look for First Avenue High School, job 1000. So if I do a search, I have 18 invoices saved for job 1000. From there, I'd be able to narrow that down even more, but these are all pieces that are getting saved on these documents as we're coding them. So that's how we're knowing to go save documents to specific attachment places and paper clips, but also for your search capabilities, not having to go to each individual AP record and pull up that image itself. We can pull a group of images too for us. But now that we know how to save documents into our P-Vault system, next thing we need to do is get the documents actually into the system. So for that, I'm going to go to my Capture tab at the top left. This Capture tab is going to quickly show me I can have the first option of Open a File. And Open a File is just going to open my file folder on my network. I can go grab whatever documents I want in here, pull them into the system, and do what I need to do with those, such as routing for a queue or pushing over to a queue or coding the invoice directly there too. After the open a file type, we then have two automatic methods to get documents into the system. My first automatic method to get a document into the system is going to be my automatic email importer. This is going to be a huge feature for you guys that are looking to go to OCR or have a system that does OCR. Because one of the biggest painstakes every accounts payable team that I talk to has is the different ways to get documents into their accounting system or to get them to their accounts payable clerks to actually process these documents. So the first thing everybody tells me when I ask them is, hey, how do you get documents into your system? They say, well, 75% of them, they go to a public email address. So we have ap@paperlessenvironments.com. We tell all vendors, please send your invoices there. The other 25 to 35% of invoices, those come in through the U.S. Postal Service or snail mail, like I like to call it. It's going to take a little time to get through the system there. So whenever those things come through, we have different automatic capture methods. So if things that come through your public AP email address go to a public AP email address, somebody then has to go physically grab those attachments and they have to send them or email them over or print them, heaven forbid, print them to a physical piece of paper and put on an accounts payable clerk's desk. Well, with the PVault system, you're going to be able to give a source of an email account you want us to watch, and this source can be an Outlook or Gmail account. From there, we can then go to our folder structure and select which folder we want to grab from the email account. So this is my personal email account here, and I can see I've actually set up a PVault demo email import folder here. So from this PVault demo email import folder here, I can watch this subfolder. That's going to allow me to still utilize my personal email account and not have every single email that comes to my account be pulled straight into the PVault queue for me. But that's because I just use this for demo purposes. But usually accounts payable email addresses, they're only used for grabbing vendor invoices. So we're going to be able to watch the inbox for that. But if it was set up on a personal email account, I would just suggest have it set where it's watching the subfolder that somebody can drag that email to. And we're actually going to use this import method here in a second to actually kick off showing you how our OCR indexes an invoice and codes an invoice and routes it automatically too. After that, you then give it its error options for, hey, if it our system can't pull it in for some reason, you want something to happen. These error options can be moving it to another folder of unsuccessful. It can be logging the errors, or what most of our customers use is the email notification that emails somebody and says, hey, there's an invoice that's stuck in the email mailer. Maybe there's something wrong with the file type or anything from there on that. After you select what you want for your error options, you then have your archiving options as well, because when something goes through successful, we want it to clear out of that folder. Our system's not searching through every single document going, hey, have we grabbed this one, have we not? It's just grabbing unopened emails that's going through and pulling them in the system. And once it's successfully pulled in, it's moving it to an archive spot. This archive spot can be moved to moving it to a different mail folder of successful, or it can be just deleting it straight out of the email account itself as well. For those of you that are current customers of ours on here right now, you actually already have access to this import method. There's no additional charge for it or anything like that. I've just found over the past year and a half to make it a big priority of mine to make sure everybody knows this is another method for you. And a lot of people have loved it and adopted the method. And then once you have your different options for what happens when documents get pulled in or if it errors, you have your configuration tab on here. Configuration tab is just going to let you select what queue this document is going to. So instead of having that email come in and then somebody printing off that email and then putting those printed documents of those invoices on somebody's physical desk for them to code into the accounts payable system, you're able to actually have those things automatically grabbed and pushed to their virtual queue, which is just like their desk they'd be sitting at. So I can say, hey, we're going to grab these attachments from my email. We're going to send them to my OCR queue to code an invoice. And then we're going to grab the attachments only, each as a separate document. So my vendor that's about to email me actually has 4 invoices in here. And all 4 of these invoices are going to be separated out by the PVault system and saved in the queue. And OCR is going to read them here in a second for me. But we do have the option to grab embedded attachments, both, and other things too. Real quickly, before we jump into that, our next option to get documents into the system is going to be our folder watch. Folder watch is going to work just like our email watch, where it's watching a folder, but instead of watching an email folder, it's going to watch a physical folder on a desktop or a server network for you. So if you're getting those snail mail invoices coming from the U.S. Postal Service, somebody either in the secretary's desk or just anywhere else in your accounts payable team can scan those documents to a specific folder called AP Invoice that you can create. When you scan it to that folder, their job with that document is now done. That document is going to be scanned to that folder. Our folder watch is going to go watch that folder, and it's going to pull that invoice to the accounts payable queue. So this can happen from a job site trailer. It can happen from anywhere you can think of. Documents are getting captured and pulled right in, but people aren't taking 10 to 20 steps of printing a document out, having multiple copies floating around the office or anything like that. It's one copy of it, it's going in the system, and it's ready to be coded and processed. All right, guys. So from there, we have one more method. Real quickly, not going to actually utilize the method, but we're able to show our drag and drop feature. So for drag and drop, you have a document on your desktop, like we can see here. I'm going to drag the document over the screen. This is now going to change your pVault screen where you can now open the file, create a batch, index it, and just save the document image in there. I can route this through DocRoute. That's why it's purple. We've color coded them. So DocRoute's just going to send the image of the document around for approval. No coding or anything like that. This is for those regular documents that flow throughout your office as well too, not accounts payable. We can then push to queue where we're actually sending it just like our email watch and our folder watch is about to do for us. We can split this document up and have multiple pages go to different people, or if it's a big PDF that somebody sent us, I use this instead of using Adobe all the time, where I can do my splitter, save it back to the desktop, and I can send out what I need to send out. Also, we can insert a document on top of a pre-existing document, and then we can also open it in another window for a side-by-side comparison of documents together. But for this, I'm going to leave this over here. All right, guys. So I actually have an email that I've emailed myself on here, and I'm going to grab my Outlook account, make it smaller for us, and drag this over the screen. So we can see down here, I have a Vista Webinar sample document. So I just emailed myself like a vendor would email me. It's got 4 attachments on it, 4 attachments. These are all different invoices. But I'm going to go mark those as unread again, and I'm going to drag these over to my pVault demo email import folder over here. So now this document has left my folder here, and you can see it's going to go and be read by our job poll. It's going to go pull it into the system itself. All right, so if I go to AP Flow up top and invoice entry, we're going to see, well, real quickly actually, let me go show you here. We're going to see my invoice approval queue. So I went to AP Flow, approve invoices, has no invoices in it right now. We'll see that email importer has already actually grabbed these 4 invoices at 124. It's 124 down here. You'll notice on here, I got my alert. This just came through, but my OCR is actually reading the invoices as we speak right now. So our OCR with our system here is a cloud-based OCR system. What this means is it's not installed on your desktop. Nobody has to go run a job that goes and grabs the documents or anything like that. But what it does is as soon as the document hits the queue, which is the spot over here to the right, our OCR is going to go read those documents. As soon as the new document hits, it reads it automatically. So by having that automatic email importer set up, it's automatically putting the documents to the queue. So nobody's doing what we're having to do of sit here and wait. So usually I have a bunch of documents already queued up, but for this webinar purposes, I've actually made it not, I've actually cleared my queue out. But you'll see all 3 of these invoices already came back. This 4th invoice is going to come back, but I have it set up where I have to refresh this queue manually right now. But you'll notice here in a second, I'm going to refresh it, and this document is going to leave this queue. That's because our OCR is going to have captured everything that I'm about to show you and automatically routed it on to the PM for approval. It's going to happen fast, but I'll go back and talk you through the steps of what happened with these other invoices. But you'll see here, I can go through and refresh my screen. Now that invoice has left this queue on here. It has been routed around for approval to the approver because certain scenarios happened within our OCR and within what the invoice had on it to automatically attach put the header information, attach the line items, and then also routed it on for approval. So there's your touchless invoice entry for it. Now, everybody knows in accounts payable, this is not always the case. That would be great if it was the case, but there's always scenarios that keep it from doing things. So I'm gonna walk you through some different options here of different stages of an invoice and what they would look like if you had our OCR and you utilize the P-Vault entry system for yourselves. So the first thing is I have P-Vault invoice number 5 down here. So if I click new invoice from this invoice here, you'll notice the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to tell me, hey, this invoice already exists for this vendor and this environment and the status of pending. I can also see here that because I'm utilizing the purchase order module within Vista, so this is just for a scenario of customers that use the create POs for their invoices in Vista. We have where OCR has gone through and it's read my header information. It grabbed my vendor, my invoice number, a description of my choice, my invoice date, my due date. It would put a discount date if my vendor had discount terms of discount date, the total, and a purchase order number. So it grabbed PO 12345 on here for me. You'll notice though, because the PO doesn't match the total of the invoice, I just have the 2 line items from the PO selected. This would allow for me to go now attach the 2 line items I want. I could have deselected one of those because maybe they sent me 2 invoices for 1 PO. I know everybody's POs are a lot bigger. I did not want to sit inside Vista all day creating this giant purchase order. So I'll just put in 2 line items for us real quick. You'll notice from here, we now also, because of our connection to Vista, have pulled down all of our PO information on this invoice as well. So we can go through and see what we needed to. And now we could manually go route this invoice. We're going to have validation that runs and highlights if something is incorrect for us. And we could then also say, hey, the line total doesn't match up. So we got $0 on our lines on here. And then we'd be able to go manually route this invoice around for approval if need be. But what we did was we took it from having to manually code out all this information like you would in Vista, and now you have it automatically happening because my procurement department already put the purchase order in. The P-Vault system has now read that header information and grabbed the other information from there for us, and it's put it to the test. We also can see over here in our invoice routing screen, we have where it's going to the assistant project manager, Dustin, then myself. We're all a level 0 sequence. The P-Vault system routes on sequential order. Lowest sequence gets it first, highest sequence gets it last on there. So we'd be able to go route this invoice. But for now, I'm going to not route that one invoice on there and go show you another route. So from here, you can see I have, when I click new invoice, this invoice already exists in our system too, but you'll see this invoice doesn't have a purchase order on it. So what the P-Vault OCR did was it went through and it found everything it should, such as the vendor, invoice number, description, invoice total, due date, invoice date, but it didn't capture any other information. So this one might not be a purchase order invoice. I can go through and put a job line. I can go code out anything else I want, but when I put that job line, it automatically puts my JC company. It puts a description of my my vendor and then my units of measurement. It fills out everything else you guys are used to having on there, but it's making this more touchless than having to sit there and physically manually enter all these pieces of information into my system, into the system to code. I could then just route this invoice if I wanted to, but from there, I'm going to just select no. And then our final invoice we have on the system is going to be an invoice that has a PO on it, but the PO does not exist within Vista. So say this invoice came into the system, my vendor put a purchase order number on there, or maybe somebody hasn't put the PO into Vista yet for me, I'm able to come through and still get an alert right here. So it says PO ABC 1234567 on here is invalid. So all that means is, hey, there's no PO within Vista. Maybe I'm a company that always requires a PO to be in there. So instead of having to stop and do anything else and go call somebody or go find the PO, go enter it ourselves, we could use our issues down here on the right and say, hey, we're missing a purchase order and this is a must resolve. So I'm going to put missing a purchase order and I'm going to document route this over, put a different invoice number. I'm going to doc route this over to my procurement department. And from there, I can say I want this for approval and I want it to return to me when complete. But I can put a quick note on there as well. So if I right click on my notes section, I have different quick notes. So I have demo quick notes. Please make sure the PO lines match the invoice lines, or please contact AP for issues when approving. So I'll just put the PO quick note I had on there. I'm gonna add a recipient. I can add an individual recipient, or I can make a group. The group would be my group or procurement group, or somebody in purchasing that is going through. That way I don't have to individually select a person that I want to, or I can individually select a person as well too. But I'm going to just route this over to my assistant project, or I'll route it over to Dustin for me. So Dustin's going to now get this document. It's going to be routed for approval or for anything to be done. And I can route this invoice. So routing of the invoice paperless 1 to 3 was sent successfully. And now I'm able to go on and code my next invoice for me. But real quickly, before we jump in the approval screen, I go show you everything on there. I can click on this learn icon here on my queue. This learn icon is going to bring you to your OCR learn screen. So what it's going to show you is on the right side of the screen, we have our different fields that we're capturing in our invoice starter pack. On the left side of our screen, we have the image of your invoice on here. So you can quickly see Brislin Inc. Strategies was the vendor that we found. It did a data match to our vendor table of vendor 50 in Vista for us. It then found an invoice number of 6167, highlighted in green. It found an invoice date on the second page of it. So we have a smart learning AI OCR. And what this means is gone are the days where you have to individually come in here and actually scan and draw out different fields where invoice information is always held. This system reads the whole invoice and it looks for keywords and phrases on that invoice to dig down into what it's actually capturing. We found invoice total about here on this page. So you can see balance due is 21,000. If it had a PO number, it would be on there. But say this invoice did have a PO and now we want to go smart learn and make it find a certain information. So I'm going to use terms over here with selected on PO. And I'm going to be able to click on whatever field I want. So you can see now PO says on. But say I want the whole thing from terms. When I highlight the whole thing, it says on or before day of event. So this is quickly how you're able to smart learn and override what the system's supposed to find. It noticed that on the invoice that there was nothing that said PO, PO pound sign, PO hashtag, PO number, or anything like that. So it went through and it found everything you might want on there for the document. But now I could go save this template for me one time. It takes 2 to 3 times to save it to override the PO module, to override the OCR from what it's supposed to find on there. But that's a fail safe for you guys. So nobody goes in there and clicks it one time by accident, and all of a sudden that vendor's invoices is pulling something weird for you on there. But that's how you quickly go and see what's going on with your invoices. But we're doing all of this, and this is so that your approvers from my AP Flow approve invoice screen here can have these invoices digitally routed to them with their backup information. So I can quickly see here, I didn't route those other 2 invoices, but here is the one that automatically routed over for me. We can see we have a document match that populates out too. So if I had a purchase order or a receiving ticket that also attached to this invoice, those would attach on here automatically too. But what you'll notice is this invoice here is the one that automatically went through and it actually attached both line items on here for me. So this is how we're getting to be touchless. If the total of the PO, so the reason this one automatically routed was the total of the invoice matched the total of the purchase order within the Vista system. The other ones, the totals didn't match up, so it didn't automatically match those apply those line items for us. Like I said earlier, this is a probably once in a blue moon scenario for a lot of accounts payable teams because everybody's got something different on there. But if everything is done correctly, we can actually have the invoice come in. It can be read. It can say, hey, we found a PO. We're going to open the purchase order quick list. The PO total matches the invoice total. Let's automatically apply the lines to the system, to this invoice. And then what we're also going to do is under our Manage AP Flow settings up here in the top of our screen, we have invoice routing. And what we can do with this invoice routing is we can actually go through and actually assign out based on either a certain vendor or anything else. Like this is our vendor routing rule that we routed this invoice for. to specific people like Dustin, myself, and there was one more. Dustin, myself, maybe it's just Dustin, myself, assistant project manager. But we're going to actually route these because the header information had vendor equals to vendor 97. And vendor 97 is just paperless environments in my vendor table. So that's why all these things automatically happen. So in your perfect scenario, your invoice is going to come in from an email account. That email account is going to grab that invoice image and it's going to pull it to your queue. Once it goes to that queue, it is then going to automatically have OCR kick off and read that invoice. If the total of the invoice matches the total of the purchase order and you're using the PO module in Vista, it's going to automatically apply those line items like it was coded in Vista, and it's going to automatically then go look for a routing rule. If there's a routing rule on it like this one had based on vendor, it's going to route that to that routing group or that routing sequence it's supposed to. And then you as a accounts payable processor never had to actually touch that invoice. It is completely touchless. We do it this way where we have this direct connection into Vista because that helps you with your accuracy rate. If you go through and try to grab line items with OCR, a lot of times your accuracy rate kind of goes out the window at that point. Not for a bad thing, but it is a computer system trying to read hard data on a screen. It will find it most of the times, but you want to try to eliminate as much as you can. So that's why we do it this way, so that our customers get the best bang for their buck and they're able to actually utilize the system. But if 25% of my invoices come in and they match up, that's 25% of my invoices I don't have to manually even touch. They're automatically getting routed on for approval and everything else from there on that aspect of it. But when it comes down to these routing rules you can set up in the pVault system, we can read your Vista routing rules, or we can come through and you can create custom routing rules based off of any field you entered into the invoice entry screen. So everything from a 1099 type to address to due date, field PO, invoice total, invoice number. I had a custom field, a lift code. A customer of mine wanted to see lift code in one of their demos. This is a field that's not in Vista, but I'm able to actually add that to my invoice entry screen within Paperless. So I can go search for that later. But I'm able to go through and actually add all these fields and create routing rules. I can then add restrictions for dollar amounts, for certain vendors, for certain job numbers, cost codes, phases, everything you can think of. But when you have all this set up, it makes your invoice entry process a breeze, where your team and your processors just have to go in and code what they see in front of them and just process what they see in front of them. They don't have to worry about who I'm sending this to next. When did they get it? How long did it take them to get there? How long is it taking you to enter an invoice when you get it from a vendor? Some people sit on invoices for weeks on weeks before they can enter them in the system just because of the backlog. Well, with our system automatically reading and inputting in the system, it cuts down on all that timing on there too. Real quickly, with our 5 minutes left, I'm going to show you guys our Invoice Manager tool. This Invoice Manager tool is quickly going to be able to go through and you're able to see as a manager all invoices that have been routed for approval. So you necessarily don't have to be the one that's on the actual route. You can see here from Dustin being the processor, I can check my reviewers real quickly and see these are all the extra people that are routed. My user of Jacob is actually not on here. This invoice was done for a demo on 8/10/2023 by Dustin. It's pending. Nobody's approved it yet. I can then also go view the documents or view the invoice itself. I can view invoice info and see who the processor was or anything else. And I can also view the audit trail. So with our system, as soon as the document comes into the system, you're going to have this advanced audit trail on here. This audit trail is not only going to tell you when the document was conceived into the system, but it's also going to tell you once the invoice was created. So the document was brought into the system at 9:28 a.m. The invoice wasn't created until 9:35 a.m. So this will quickly show you for your team members how long it might be taking somebody to code an invoice once it's coming into the system or anything like that. But you're able to go through and we color coordinate everything too. So red invoices are due date attentive, blue invoice discount date attentive, black coding on it or lettering on it is going to be there's no issue with that invoice at all. It is ready to just be processed as you see on a need basis. But that is how we code invoices and how we try to take your invoice entry down to 0 clicks. Some processes and some scenarios require somebody to touch that invoice on there, but we try to eliminate as much manual data entry as possible. I'm dyslexic, so by all means, I hate when I have to code out invoices with invoice numbers because I'm probably going to transpose numbers back and forth, or I'm going to spell something wrong within the description or something like that. With using our OCR system, I am able to drop the document in, let the system read what it sees there. If I need to, the most amount of work I have to do is actually just add line item, a line item to this document, to the invoice itself. I don't have to sit there and flip through tons and tons of mundane tasks through there. All right, guys, we have 5 minutes left. If anybody's got any questions or comments, please put those in the QA section and we'll try to answer those as we see fit. All right, I don't see anybody jumping in there, so we'll give you guys 3 minutes back of your time. If anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to discuss, let me pull up my contact information real quickly. Here's our contact information, so you can reach out directly to me at jacobd@paperlessenvironments.com, or if you want to talk to one of our consultants, that's just at expert@paperlessenvironment.com. Our office line number is 225-218-4768, but my direct line number at the office is 225-612-1091. Thank you guys for joining in, and also please join into our community page as well too. So if you guys are current customers of ours and you haven't so far gotten on our community, by all means, please go to our community page. I'm trying to find where it's at. Community login on here. This community page will allow you to go suggest more topics for webinars for us to do. It'll allow you to put feature requests in if you're a current customer, or you can even see what other customers are having questions on throughout the paperless community and our team of members. All right, thank you guys very much, and hopefully talk to you guys soon.